Hi. So I'm going to go through this presentation. It's about kind of our coaching culture and how we build effective group programming here, both from culture standpoint, a program design standpoint, and then actual coaching on the floor. And it's really from my observations of working here for the last 12 years. And I gave this at Perform Better. But as we go through it, if you guys have questions as it pertains to what you do, put your hand up because you're here to get your questions answered and to get better. And if that means you have to answer a question that slows me down, that's fine with me. I'd rather help you. Okay, so just don't feel like you don't have to hesitate to raise your hand. If you have a good question, if you have any question, someone else probably has the same question in their head, so ask it because it enriches the whole environment. So getting right into it. The thing with Mike is I feel like a lot of people, when they hear Mike's name or think about Mike Boyle, they think about the technical contributions that he's given to the field, right? Like as far as how he's changed strength conditioning from a functional training standpoint, the ideas of single leg training and core training, the joint by joint approach, all these technical ideas, right? And obviously seeing that every day, I agree with that. But there's things that I see every day here about him and how he's built this business and how he's built this coaching culture here that other people don't actually recognize. Because what I actually think about Mike when I think about Mike beyond his technical contributions is how he's built a coaching business and how he's built a business that is repeatable and he has been able to scale within here. When we have in the summer, if you walk in, you see 400 people come and go out of here throughout the day. And we have when the last time you were here, how many different coaches have we had since the last time you were here? And they're coaching the same way. Building a coaching culture in a business, and that to me is amazing because I've seen it change. I've been here through, this has got to be my fourth or fifth entire staff. Like I'm a dinosaur compared to the kids that were all sitting here just now with you. And every time we saw coaches leave, I'd be like, oh man, I don't know how we're gonna. And they're hard. It does hurt when you lose some people. But then there's a system here that has made people repeatable and coaching repeatable over this long haul. So just some ideas. They've been in business for over 20 years, consistently growing even during 2008 when there was a recession. Their numbers were still going here. Their enrollment was still going here. Shortly after the recession, we moved into this building a year later because business was booming at that point. Okay, and it's a career builder for a lot of coaches. If you look at our alumni and the people that have been here before, a lot of professional strength coaches and every professional league and people who actually build their own businesses, they're a lot like this. And I think that speaks volumes about what Mike and Bob have built here from a business and a coaching standpoint. And I think there's a lot to be learned from people, whether you're someone who works in, obviously you guys are in a private setting, but whether you're in a private setting, you're in one-on-one, you're online, or you're in a professional setting, I think there's things you can take away from the successes that they've had and the systems that we have. Obviously they're gonna have to change a little bit in everybody's setting, but I think there's some big rocks we can hopefully take away from this. So I tried to boil it down to three big rocks and then two little things under each of them. So I think the first thing we're talking about is leadership, and I think it starts with hiring the right people on the idea of hire slow, fire fast, and creating an atmosphere that supports a business that will be successful, both from an atmosphere for your employees and an atmosphere for the people that come in here. Okay, programming, understanding your principles, having them down stone cold, really having a real firm grasp on what you believe in as a business from a training standpoint. Because then it makes it easy to make decisions. You can quickly identify what flies and what doesn't. And then think about practicality, because there's best case scenario, hey, in a perfect world, this is how I build it. It's never a perfect world. It doesn't matter where you are, because we run into logistics issues, we run into coaching issues. It all comes down to what you can coach and what will fit within that 60-minute block, 90-minute block. Most decisions about what gets put on paper have to do with that. Okay, and then from an execution standpoint, being able to hustle and coach, at the very real basic, you got to work. You got to get out there and you got to coach for the 60 minutes, for the 90 minutes that you're out there to make it work. Because you can have a great program on paper, but if you're not willing to coach it hard, it doesn't really matter. And then communication throughout the staff, and that gets continually harder as your staff grows and there's more complexities that's put into it, right? So we'll start with leadership because I think it's the most important thing. And whether it's leadership of your athletes like this, or if it's leadership with your team and the people that you're with, it's the same principle. So they're going to translate right across. Okay. That's our family, that right there, right? And I think right then and there, that picture summed it up really good. That was our Christmas party, but we treat each other like a family. And that means having fun, but that also means being willing to tell people when they need to get better, or we need to be honest with one another and tell them hey, we have to step our game up, because you're going to be honest and straightforward with the people you're probably closest with and willing to kick it to them and tell them what needs to change. But we treat each other like a family here, and we try to bring people in that we think are a part of the family and fit that mold. So I think understanding your culture And when you have people who are interns or people who are coming in for the first time, understanding like this person would be a good fit or this person wouldn't be a good fit. And sometimes that's like a visceral thing. You just kind of know who would fit your environment. If you guys haven't read this book, there's a lot of book recommendations as this. A Legacy by James Kerr. It's a book all about the All Blacks, probably the most successful sporting franchise in all sports. And they have one rule for hiring. Does anybody know what that is? Yeah, no dickheads. And it's pretty simple. Like they want the guy on the highest end of the totem pole to be willing to, they say, sweep the sheds. Well, you clean out the locker room after. They want guys who treat each other with respect and who are honest and who work hard. They'll kick guys, the most talented guys, off the team if they don't fall in line, because at the end of the day, they found that it's poison from the inside out. And like Mike says, like the number one thing we want is just good people here, right? Like there's a lot of people who, if you look at their CV when they first came in, like weren't qualified. Like I know, like 2 guys in this room that were just sitting here doing Q&A with you don't have degrees in this field at all. But I did a CFSC course with the guy like Shy, and I'm like, he's a good kid. He wants to be here. He worked hard. He studied. And he kept showing up. I'll take you. Joe Squazzaro, same thing. Great guy. Kept working hard. I'll take you. I'd rather have you than someone with a degree with all sorts of letters after their name who isn't going to work hard, who isn't very personable. Because at the end of the day, there's a people business because you have to be around each other. I don't know what's going on here. It's a people business, and if like people are paying essentially to spend an hour with you every single day if you're doing personal training, and if they don't like you, they're not going to keep coming back. And then you also have to be around your coworkers all day, right? So I don't know why this thing did not want to go to the next slide, but so a good way we get these people weeded out and we get them started, we figure out who's a fit, is we have an internship program. And I highly recommend people to build some sort of internship program into their business, because right away, well, maybe not right away, the first week everybody works really hard, right? And they want to be there. But you'll find out, like we have a 3-month internship. After 12 weeks, I know who's a good worker. I know who's personable. I know who wants to learn. I know who wants to stay late. I know who wants to come early. I also know the people who want to take days off and who want to tell me every excuse why they can't coach this group, or who care more about their workout than coaching the people around them, right? And it's very clear by the end who are the people who I'm going to be like, hey, I'm really not going to come to you for opportunities. I'm going to just let you kind of clean and set up and stuff like that. And the people I'm going to be like, hey, I'm going to give you this opportunity to help coach this group and lead this group. And then those people at the end are people you want to hire. So obviously Mike, Nicole Rodriguez, and Garnet Vamos, they were my intern coordinators. And I'll tell you, that was like the hardest summer of my life at that point. I said, I've never worked so hard. We're here till like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and we split up shifts now. But back then it was like we were probably breaking some employment laws. Yeah, I've gotten soft. Yeah, we have back then. But I learned a ton. Like we coached and coached. And the big thing is, if you run an internship, run one where they have to coach. Don't just have them make shapes and clean the floor. These interns are an integral part of our business, and we would not be able to actually exist without them in the summer, because they help. Like when they first start the first week, I might be like, hey, I just need you to kind of help set up. But then from there, I'm like, hey, I have this kid he's new. Can you just take him through the active warm-up while I take the rest of the group? Then I start to give them more responsibility as they show me that they have it. And it's a huge, huge piece of what we do. And I can't overstate how valuable the interns are to us. And we spend the time to educate them each week. Like we don't just have them show up and work. Like right now, the fall through spring, it's a half-day internship. Because of the nature of our business, like our kids don't come until the afternoon. It also allows these type of interns, we realize if it's not in the summer, the type of interns you're going to get are going to be people who are working another job or out of school. They're not going to be typically kids who are taking classes, right? So they have to make a living. So sometimes they'll work somewhere else on the weekend, work somewhere else during the day, and then they'll come in here in the afternoon. They'll usually be older. The summer, it's people who are in college. We just work them the whole day, then they go back to school. So you get different types of interns. But when they're here, like they come in an hour or two before, they do education with Pat or Vinny or one of the staff. We rotate the staff, and then they do their workout. They work out every day they're here, right? So they're getting more out of it than just working. Like we have a curriculum. There's a whole thought process put into it.
Do you see any difference between the 2 groups, like the summer intern?
Absolutely. Yep. And I was just talking to someone about this the other day. The people who come, like fall, winter, spring, usually older, a little bit mature. Lots of people who are changing careers. People who are maybe in a grad program. Like I have 3 kids from Merrimack that are all in the grad program right now, right? So just different mindset. That doesn't necessarily mean they're more hireable. Sometimes they are because they're older and more mature and they've had some experience. But then sometimes in the summer they're more moldable, right? Like they're younger. They might have more work to do with them from an education standpoint. but like I like someone who's kind of green sometimes because I don't have to, clean out all the other junk that's in there. So I mean, we've gotten valuable. Like if you think about who are some of our most valuable full-time staff we had, they've come from all around the year, just different backgrounds. I am partial to the summer because I was a summer guy, and like you work, like you just coach a lot. Like you don't have much FaceTime with Mike, but you're here, like you're coaching groups from sun up till sundown. So by the end of the summer, I'm like, I got my 10,000 hours. This time of the year, you get more FaceTime, you have staff meetings with Mike, you have more formal education in the classroom because there's more time for it, but you're not going to coach as many groups, right? So I think I always tell people, think about your lifestyle and the people who are going to apply for an internship. I'm like, what can you fit into your life? Because if you're here, we value you. If you have to take days off, things are moving too quick sometimes to be able to pull you along, So this is the one thing I needed audio for. So like I said, we hire on personality, okay? In the summer, we literally get over 200 applications for the internship. And then we take about 20. That's about 10%, right? That's like Harvard acceptance rate. I'm not saying we're Harvard, but we get a lot of applications. So how do I comb through them? And I don't really comb through anymore. Steve and Vinny and Pat do. But the thing we always say is hire off personality first. So to do that, we get interns from all over the world. Okay, if you can't come in for an interview, like you're not in like the Boston Northeast area, you can't come in one-on-one and do a little group interview and meet us all. We ask that you send in a video explaining why you're interested in working here and how you think you can make an impact, right? And I'm really just looking at how do they display their personality. They just sit in front of the computer and be like, hi, my name is Kevin Carr. I want to work at MBSC because, and they don't really put anything. You don't need to be a video, you don't need to be Sean. Like you don't need to be like the media genius, but just show me your personality. Like you don't even have to edit it. Like Jill Zeller, who's a strength coach at USC now, she's one of our greatest coaches we've had, awesome. She put a 45-pound plate on her back, did a plank for 3 minutes while she talked on the camera about why she was excited to coach, and she was like energetic. Like I thought it was funny. Like I was like, okay, if she's willing to do that, cool, I'll take her, right? Because she was just creative and she had energy. This is probably the best one I've ever had, right? And Aaron worked for us for a couple of years, and you can see he still has, this is the impact. Yeah, he still has a cardboard cutout out in the gym. You can see it. It's been here for 3.5 years since he left. Because when he left, he sent it to us because he's like, I figured you'd miss me. And where no one wants to throw it away, no one wants to throw it away. It's still out there. It's been there for 3 years. So just watch this. When I saw this, I said, I don't care what his degree is. Just take him. Okay? So.
Hi, my name is Aaron Salter. I'm from Los Angeles, California, currently residing in Boston. I'm 27 years old, I have a bachelor's degree in kinesiology. My current certifications include ACSN, CPT, NSCA, CSCS. And I recently got my USAW Sport Performance Coach certification. I always strive to better myself and consistently continue my education, so I can give the athletes all the tools they need in order to be successful. That's what I want to get into at MBSC. MBSC is the epicenter of the strength and conditioning world, and it molds athletes into functional high performance. This internship isn't just a means to learn to be best. I want to join the MBSC team to help contribute and implement to the athlete performance program. Okay guys, on a serious note, strength and conditioning is my passion, and I think this is a great opportunity to further my education. Thank you so much for the consideration, and I look forward to hearing from you.
So, like, he showed his personality. It was funny. We don't take ourselves too seriously here. Like, we're like, oh, he'd hang out with us. We'd enjoy having him here. Like, when he was here, the athletes and the adults loved him. Like, his group was filled all the time because they liked being around him. And then I could teach him how to coach. Like, he had a pretty good background. You can't teach someone how to be personable. You can't teach someone how to be nice. I can teach someone how to coach the way we coach. Like, there's a system. That's why you have a system, right? So we look for things like that. If they come in for an interview, I like them to try to meet multiple people on the staff. Don't just sit in the room with me, because then I'm leaving one person to make the decision. You're probably not going to come out of your shell. So I'll usually talk to them for a bit and then walk around the gym. Here, let me show you the gym. Introduce you to one person, let you talk. Introduce you to another person, let them talk. Okay, hey, what'd you think about this person? And we kind of bounce them off each other. That, I think, is the best way to do it, because then the staff feels like they have a say, they get a feel, and I can be like, how'd you interact, right? You can usually tell right off the bat if they're going to fit, right? At the same time, sometimes you need to fill spots. Like, there was some times early on when I was first doing the internship, and we did for the fall and the winter, we didn't get many applications because it's just an off time of the year. And I was like, okay, Pulse, we'll take you for now. And sometimes they weren't good. Now we get enough applications that we can actually really pick and choose. Like I said, we have 3 grad students from Merrimack who have worked in strength and conditioning, and they were highly recommended from the coach who's a friend of ours out there. I'm like, okay, those people are perfect, right? So at the end of the day, I think internship is a really good way to figure out who fits. And some of the questions I always ask is, could I have a beer with this person? Would I want to hang out with this person? Like, because again, would they be personable enough to be someone you want to spend time with? Would I leave my kids with this person? Okay, because like most of the time here, you're hanging out with children, and impressionable children, right? I'm like, there's a certain type of person, like how they handle themselves. I'm like, I don't know if that person would fit. Like I've had some people in internship. I'm like, I don't know if I want you with a bunch of 12-year-old kids, 12-year-old soccer girls out here tonight. Probably not the fit that I want. And could they talk with my mom and dad? Like, because if they have to coach adult groups are all about relationships. Like sometimes with kids, you can kind of just tell them what to do. They don't really care. You do want to build the relationships with them, obviously, but with the adults, like I don't ever coach a new adult unless I like know their name, know where they're from, know something about them. Because they've been coming here and like I'm, Johnny the new intern, I come up and be like, hey, fix your squat. Like they don't want to hear from me. So you want to think, okay, do they have those social skills? I'm like, Aaron could talk to that camera for a freaking hour, right? And now sometimes that was a problem. I'd be like, hey, dude, like, yeah, coach. But like that again, can't teach that. So think about like, what are your qualifiers to the people you're going to take in? Would you send your daughter to work out with these guys? If you're a Jersey Shore fan, nothing wrong with that. But like, there's an image we're trying to cultivate here, right? Like Mike tends to think like we don't have a bunch of coaches in tank tops out there like looking at themselves in the mirror. Like he tries to think like, what is the image that we want in this gym? Okay, and then what environment are you creating? Like for us, like we try to create an environment that's empowering and enriching for everyone that's here. Whether it's, I have Stu and Nance who I always reference in my talks. They're like 78 years old, right? They feel comfortable here. Okay. 12, 13-year-old girls feel comfortable here. High school football, college football feels comfortable here. Create an environment within here, and that starts with the people that you put in it, the music you put on. Like Mike is like a broken record about the music. Mm-hmm. Like it's not. If you watch the staff meetings, like it's every week.
Brought it up today.
Yeah. But it's because like he is like there's little things that he cares about, the shirt, the sleep, like all those things. And I sometimes when you're younger, like, oh Jesus, Mike, like Christ. But I get it. I do get it because you're trying to have it when you have the business. Like even in here, when my guys are in here, I'm like, guys, like little things like that maybe your staff doesn't think of. You have to create a culture that supports what you want. Like there was a gym literally a mile down the road, strength and conditioning gym, big gym, beautiful place, right? And one of my clients had for a long time. He was like, my kid needs to do like all this different training. He's like, I'm gonna try taking her there. I'm like, whatever, man. Like trust me, if you just trust the system, you're fine. Took her there, walked in. And there was like 3 guys working out with no shirt and the masks on. And he's like, I just turned around. And I was like, I told you, man. Like, it's just like there's just like that. Those things turn people off as customers. It might turn on some customers, but the majority of the people, if you want to have a business that's busy, there's a way that you want it to look and feel. And you got to think about those things and think about the people that you're bringing in. Okay. Real great. There's a book, Before Happiness. It goes with Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker. Highly recommend. It's one of my favorite books ever. And he talks about the 10-5 rule. And what the 10-5 rule is, it started with the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. And they have this rule that when you're within 10 feet of a guest, you at least smile and make eye contact and say hello. If you're within 5 feet, you ask them how their stay is and if you can help them. And it's from the janitor all the way to the general manager, all the way top to bottom. Right, and what they did is it was Ochsner Health Systems in Louisiana. They were a like $1 billion hospital, right? But they routinely had low scores for customer service. They had high scores for treatment, but customer service was low. And they're like, this affects our business because you don't get repeat customers. You don't have as many referrals. So they instituted this top to bottom, and they said it was something like a 7% increase in like retention. Now it's a $1 billion business, so 7% increase is massive. And they're like the biggest healthcare system in like the Southeast United States. Just by having them change the way they interact with people, the way that the nurses and the doctors and all the service people communicate with the people that came in the door. And it becomes contagious because then everybody's like that. And when we're here, I always try to tell our staff, like, if you see an adult you don't know, go say hello to them, ask them. No one's gonna be like, I can't believe this guy asked me my name. Like, hey, how are you? Like, what's your name? Whenever I see someone stand, this always happens, people stand at the front. Like they don't know whether to turn left or right to Bob's office or Carrie's office, and they like stand at the front. And I'm like, if I'm up there, I'm like, hey, how are you? How can I help you? And sometimes they're like, oh no, I'm just waiting for my kid. Okay, what if you weren't someone who was waiting for your kid and you were just like, oh, I don't know who to talk to? That's a customer who someone say, oh, they felt welcome there, right? And I've seen plenty of times that turn into a sale of a client that wants to come and stay here and they keep coming here, right? So every time, ask a question, ask someone how it's doing. It takes 2 seconds when you're walking through the gym and you see a customer who might be coming from one, they say, hey, how are you? How's everything been? That gets them, they feel like it's cheers, right? Like everyone knows their name. You want to create that feeling in here as much as you can. And again, picking the right people to do that is extremely helpful. Another book, most people have probably heard of this one by now, Start With Why. Again, amazing book. And what Simon Sinek talks about is this concept of the golden circle, right? And how conventional businesses, conventional people start with what and work towards why, right? They can easily define what they do, right? So if I ask you all, what do you do for a living? Gym owner, personal trainer, physical therapist, strength and conditioning coach. You can name it in a second if someone asks you, right? And if I ask you how you do it, again, pretty quickly, your proprietary practice. Are you a functional strength coach? Are you a such and such, a Mulligan therapist? Are you a massage? Like, you tell me how you go about your business. Hey, I do functional training, single legs training, anti-core training. Again, you have your understanding. But if I ask you why, it's a lot harder for you to define, like, why. It's not to make money, because if you want to make money, you wouldn't have done this for a living. Also, like, that's a result. That's not a why. That's not why you wake up every day, because there's easier ways to make a bunch of money. Okay, it's a lot harder to answer. It's a little bit more of a blurry answer. But what he says is that remarkable businesses, remarkable people, the ones that are at the next level, can easily state their why. They start there and then work outwards. And I've actually found that to be really true in this profession. The people who don't start with why are the people who you see their name on social media for a couple of years and then they disappear, because you can't sustain this business off your what. There's too many of us. It's a flooded market, and there's only so many dollars. The people, they won't sustain just off the money. They have to understand why they do it. He used examples like Apple. Like, their whole thing was like, they want to make remarkable products. They didn't call themselves Apple phones. They were Apple computers, right? But like, everyone has an iPhone in their hand because they were trying to change things. They were the headphones, like things like that. Yeah, right? Or yeah, Android, right? But he has all these other examples. Even he talks about the Wright brothers, right? And all these other examples in that book about people, like, they weren't in it they didn't make the plane for the money. They didn't have any money. They bankrolled it themselves, right? And as coaches, you should be able to think of that the same way. And I think that's most important, because these days are really long, and it takes some time to get a payoff. But the payoff emotionally is huge, and the results that you get with people in the long term, if you stick with it, it can be a really rewarding career, both financially and emotionally for you, right? And the quote he says in the book is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? There's plenty of gyms around here, right? And the majority of the consumers that come here don't know that we're better at strength and conditioning. They just come because someone else told them it was good, and that the coaches were nice, and that they like spending time with them, and people are friendly, right? There's like 10 gyms all within like a mile of here. Why do they choose us consistently? Because of the culture. No, none of my clients out there know about single leg training or anti-core training. Like, they don't really care about that stuff. They come because they like it, and then they also feel good, right? So if you just take the words and you change it, and I really like this, and they say, because I think this is the truest thing in this presentation, people don't buy coaching, they buy the coaches, right? Like, they really care about the coaches. Like, that's the thing when I said when people leave, like, the people are like, oh shit, like, I really liked working with Marco, I liked working with Christina, I liked working with Ken, these people who we've had that were really transformational for them. And then we have to trust that they're going to hop on board with someone else, and usually they do. But they're here, and they keep coming Monday, Wednesday night at 6:30 because they like being with those people and that group of people, right? So I always challenge our interns, I challenge our staff to be able to say what your why is. And when Brendan and I, we read this book really early on, like right when it came out, and I remember us saying, like, we should be able to write our why, and then try to stick to that every day. And I remember sitting down with Brendan, and him and I kind of wrote these together. And we've had this for a while. We've continually kind of tweaked the wording, but it's never really changed. So coaching and educating about physical activity is my tool of choice. Like, that's what I use as a tool to get the result and the why that I want. I can use it to build stronger and more confident kids. I can rebuild adults who have seen their value diminish and break down over time. I can use it to help people build better lives. Like, this is a tool, right? Like, other people could find different tools. This works really well for me because I like it and I understand it. I'm good at it, and you probably are the same way, right? But I'll tell you right now, when I started here in like 2007, 2008, I thought I was just going to be in that old building that we used to be in, coaching high school kids. Maybe I'd coach the college kids. I didn't even think I'd coach the pro kids, the pro guys. I was like, I'll do this. I'll just do this every day. And that was awesome. And that's when we wrote this, right? My why hasn't changed. My job has changed a lot. My how and my what, like, people ask me what I do for a living. That's why you start with the why. Because my why has been very consistent. I still educate and coach people out of physical activity to help kids, to help adults, to help coaches. Because if I help the coaches, I help tenfold more kids and adults, because it becomes exponential, right? But now I'm not just coaching kids, which I still do. Like, I still do every single day. I'm educating coaches around the world. I'm like doing things like this, and that helps my impact grow. But nothing really changed. I think if you only define yourself, if you pigeonhole yourself as your what and your how, then you limit your ceiling. If you just continually think about, okay, how can I keep sticking to this? Then it grows. 10x is a lot bigger. So you continually think along those lines. And I think, personally, for me, it was a game changer. Okay, like for instance, this is a kid, Alex. Actually, this is actually really interesting, and I didn't even think about this because this is a recent development. So this kid, Alex, I took him years ago. It was right when we moved into this place. Okay, breaking 2 of our rules here, which is headphones and no sleeves, and I'll tell you why. Okay, he came to me, and he was about 6. He'd grown 11 inches in a calendar year, just over a calendar year. I think about 13, 14 months. It's freakish, right? But he was like, probably like 6'5" and 140 pounds. That is like the tripod. Like, he's thin, right? And he had chronic back pain, knee pain, hip pain. He wasn't playing sports because he'd grown so quick, right? The soft tissue couldn't keep up with the bones. So he came in, I'll never forget this, friggin' filling out the intake form, pencil on the ground. He picks it up like this. He's like, oh, I can't flex my back. My doctor told me not. I'm like, you're 15, 16 years old. Like, you can bend down and round your back. You're gonna be fine. But he was in so much pain and sensitization. His mom brought him to me. She's like, he needs stretching. He doesn't really need strength training. He needs stretching. Well, he needed strength training. He was weak as a kid. Fast forward, he was 185 when he was like leaving for college, right? A couple years later, and lifting heavy, not in pain, playing sports again, right? And like, so for instance, the biggest thing I noticed about him when he first came was not that he was really skinny. That was pretty obvious, and that he was in pain. But he like kind of carried himself like this. Like, he wasn't confident. Like, he kind of talked his head down, kind of like looked around, like wasn't confident in himself at all. I created a freaking monster in this kid, not physically here, right? By the end of it, coming in, like high-five people, saying hello. He's like, are we gonna squat today? He had friends in the gym. That was what mattered to me. Because he left and he went to college and he was a different kid than when he walked in. And there were other things that went into that. It wasn't just me. I'm not saying it was just me, but I think the environment that was created here and the things that he got from it made him a different person, right? So this day, he's like, hey man, like, I want to max out my goblet squat today. I'm like, all right. He's like, can I listen to my favorite song? I don't even know what it was. I'm like, fine, whatever. And he's like, can I like take a picture after? I was like, yeah, dude, wear your sleeveless shirt so you want to post it on Instagram or whatever. I'm like, fine, man. So I let him do this. So Mike always cringes when I show this. But what's even funnier, when I talk about my why, no lie. So his mother brought him here. She was also, this is a true story, was wearing a back brace, like permanently. She just wore it all the time. She's like, well, I hurt my back once, so the doctor told me I should just wear this. I'm like, well, you have muscles for that. Fast forward, well, she has osteoporosis, she had osteopenia. She started training with me. She's been training with me for 3 years now. This Friday, she's doing CFSC level 1 here as a coach. She's becoming a coach. So for me, when I talk about why, if you told me that when she came, not a chance would this woman ever be interested in this. She's just like stay-at-home mom. She's like, I want to help people because you help me. Again, impact, right? If you just stick to it, like, those aren't intended results. Those are accidental results. They just kind of happen when things go. Like, I trained her today at 11:30. If you were here, tall, skinny woman, she's taking it on Friday. If you guys will be here, okay. Again, when you think about your why, I always show this because there's so many crazy hockey and sports parents you're going to run into if you work with kids. And it's the estimated probability of competing in interscholastic athletics beyond high school. And they're slim. So we have a lot of hockey players, right? High school student athletes, about 37,000 in men's ice hockey. Percent high school to professional, not a lot, 10%, okay? 0.1% rather. Baseball, almost 500,000, okay? 0.6%. Everyone thinks their kid's like the next Jack Eichel, all these other like athletes. I'm like, the fact of the matter is most of these kids won't even play in college, much less professional, okay? So if you're only thinking about developing athletic traits, if you're only thinking about getting them in the best athlete, and you're not thinking about teaching them character traits, being on time, being respectful, putting your sheet away, cleaning up in the weight room, all these other things that are really valuable, then you're missing the boat, right? I always tell the coaches here, every time you have these kids, you have such an opportunity to mold who they are as people, right? By how you carry themselves. You don't have to intentionally teach a lesson. How do you carry yourself? Are you on time? Are you respectful? Do you keep track of things? Okay? What standards do you hold yourself and the people around you to? They see that. These kids are real observant. And if you think about it, like I always say with the athletes, they legitimately, like, all day long, they probably, high school age kids, might not get along with their parents, probably don't like school. They might not get along with their coach. You're kind of in a unique position sometimes as the strength coach to like be cool. And it doesn't really matter how old you are. Like, it's a unique position that I think you get way more contact time and communication than most coaches and most other authority figures in their life, right? So you take that time to try to teach these things. And there's the book Inside Out Coaching. This is one of our books from our book club that I absolutely love. And so Joe Ehrmann, he played for the Colts. He went to play at Syracuse and he played for the Colts. And he talks about his experiences with coaching, his transformational experiences, both positive and negative. Starts with some real negative stories. And now he went down a bad path, had a lot of issues, rebounded, found people who were really good for him, and how you should think about coaching to impact people in a positive manner. And that doesn't just have to be athletes. I mean, it can be the same with adults. It's the same thought process. They're coming here for everyone who comes here. Think about how expensive training is. It's not cheap. It's like a luxury item that we're providing, right? There's some coaches that can't afford themselves, okay? And what I always tell people is like, listen, if they're coming here to spend $100 an hour with you, there's something about themselves that they think they need your help, that they need to change, whether it's a weight loss client or an athlete client. They're coming for that, right? And so you're here to coach them through that both physically and psychologically. And what Joe Ehrmann says is one of the great myths in America is that sports build character. They can and they should. Indeed, sports may be the perfect venue in which to build character, but sports don't build character unless a coach possesses it, character, and intentionally teaches it. You have to make it a thought process every single day when you're in here, right? And again, that goes back to picking the right people. It's a lot easier to do if you're putting the right people in here as coaches in the first place. But thinking every day, like, okay, every time after we do cleans, everybody take your time, clean up all the weights, put everything back, put your sheet back. Like all these little things do add up. And we talk about sports and mental toughness, all that stuff about like these college strength coaches like hurting, giving kids rhabdo from like as punishment, like it's mental toughness. That's bullshit. That's not mental toughness training. Mental toughness training is kids showing up every day on time, even if they don't want to. That's mental toughness. Putting things away when they feel like they don't want to do it. Being nice and respectful to someone who might not be that way to you. Like all those, that's mental toughness, right? That's every day. It's not grinding kids in the ground with sprints. Anybody can make somebody tired. So I think that all those are the big rocks we need to be thinking about. The X's and O's are easy after a while. It's all the other things that I think take a little more work as a coach every day. And that comes, like I said, leading from the front. Like Mike and Bob didn't need to fill those sandbags. This was a candid. I didn't stage this one. Walked out back and they were filling sandbags. Like all those sandbags they were filling with sand. We got plenty of staff members and interns, but Mike was like, oh, we just got to do it, so why don't we just do it right now? Okay? How many times I've seen Mike, you know why this is here? So Mike can climb into the dumpster and stomp the trash down. It's a true story. I pulled up one day, it's like 6 in the morning, and I see Mike in there breaking down boxes because people hadn't folded the box. He's probably heard this and they've watched staff meetings. People hadn't broken down the cardboard or broken down like the trash in there and was taking up all the space, so he's in there stomping down the trash. Like, what am I going to walk by a piece of trash on the floor? He was in the dumpster this morning. Right? But that creates like a certain thought process with you as an employee. It starts a process with your athletes when they see you doing the work too. Right? So again, it's the same way you manage your athletes, the same way you manage your people. Right? It's the same principles, just who you're working with. So, and I don't think you need to go out of your way to be like, hey, everyone, watch me do this great thing. Like, just live your life that way, and they're going to see it, and they're going to be like, ah, this is someone I respect and want to follow. Okay? When it comes to leadership, this is out of transformational inside out coaching, is this idea of being a transformational leader. And he said great leaders that are transformational can always battle being an autocratic leader and a participative leader, right? Participative leader is your buddy. Autocratic leader is like Bill Belichick, right? No one wants to be one way all the time. You're not going to connect with everyone. You're going to miss a lot. And these people are going to get it run over, and everyone's going to be sick of this person, okay? Every relationship, every day, that seesaw swings. You need to figure out how to communicate with different staff members, different athletes. Like within my group in the summer, like I had like a couple of athletes who I've been training for a long time, close relationships with. I can be like this because when I have to be like, hey, you got to get stuff done, they listen to me because they know me. Then I have other kids who they're like cool high school boys who like don't want to listen to me, and I have to be a little tougher with them. Like, hey guys, like focus. And I have to kind of get up their ass some days to get them to work. But that's how you get it done. And I literally can go from one conversation to another, and you have to change it. You have to figure out how to work those interpersonal skills. Okay. And there's a really good quote. Mike gave me this from the coach Tom Martinez, who's a legendary sprint coach, and he said, "Every athlete needs a different mix of shit and ice cream. Some kids need more shit. Some kids need more ice cream." Like around here, these North Shore kids, pretty well off, wealthy, privileged, go to private schools. Their whole life is freaking ice cream. Everything is ice cream. So they need more of this. Like there's a true story. You've probably heard this because I've given the coaching presentation before. I had this group of kids that all went to private prep school, hockey kids. I had the whole team. And they all had different goals. And this one kid, Ryan, was skinny, really skilled player, like good with the puck, but he was small. So he said to me, he's like, I want to gain like 20 pounds this summer. Real reasonable goal. I can get you stronger. You're going to be a better player for it. And we made like a commitment to each other. I said, listen, like you're going to bring your shaker every day. I'm going to make sure that I said, you can keep your protein tub here. Okay. But I need you to like have your shaker every day. That's going to be like your commitment. Bring it every day so we can make a shake. Okay. All the other stuff you need, we'll have here for you. It was good for a week. One day comes in, no shaker. I'm like, Ryan, what's up, man? Dead serious, looks at me now. He goes, oh, Maid didn't clean it. Like, he didn't blink. Like, he was serious. This kid, they have a private jet. Like, this guy, they own like a big, like this, he's a billionaire, right? They have a jet. Like, they don't rent it, they own it, right? He never washed a dish in his life. He goes, I've never washed a dish in my life. And I'm like, all right, well, let's come in the staff room. There's a shitload of dishes my staff didn't clean. Oh, you better believe I made him clean some plates, right? You better believe he didn't forget a shaker, right? These kids, a lot of these, they have a warped sense of like demands in their life, right? So like, you have to teach some of these things, right? Then there's other kids that come here that don't have that good of a deal in life, right? And they have all these other personal things that they need, that they're dealing with on a daily basis. And like, you have to be more of their friend. You have to like talk with them, like pull them aside, like have these conversations where you're like, didn't think I would have to have this conversation as a strength and conditioning coach. But like, there's kids that are crying here. There's kids that like come in because they don't want to go home, or kids that like have problems in school and things like that. You got to give them ice cream, right? But you can't just put the same communications across the board. The program can be much more cookie cutter than your communication can. And even the program changes, but I'll tell you, the communication is a lot more varied, that's for sure, okay? And Mike talks about the idea of the 20-year window, right? Like you don't have the value of seeing it now, right? But you're gonna have 20 years from now, someone come back to you and say, man, you like really changed my life. Mike, how long you known Boyle for?
93.
Yeah, that's a long time. Okay, I was 6. No, but like, you like these relationships that you don't realize they're gonna come back around 20, 30, 40 years down the road. And these people are going to be like, oh, thank you for that experience you gave me. Like, what's your relationship? Explain, do these guys know how you know Mike?
Yeah, they do. But I mean, like,
yeah.
Each is like beer, everything else, you know.
Yeah.
It's trickle down to you guys. And
Yeah.
like, spread out.
Yeah. All the way back from like some communication you guys had when you were an athlete, right? So like, these things are bigger than you realize. They could be inconsequential at the moment, but probably not in the long haul. Okay. And part of this is communication about how to set goals. And I think sometimes the ideas of goal setting are like overrated, because sometimes like a goal is just a thing you work for, and then if you don't get there, you're like, oh, it was just a bad plan. But I think you have to communicate with people every day about what they want to work towards, right? It's easy to just be like, yeah, we're gonna lose weight, and then you don't do anything. Intentional communication. A lot of people show up to a gym and just be like, this should just happen for me, but you have to teach them about behaviors. And all I want to do is spend some time talking about behaviors before I start talking about programming. So, these are here actually. I don't. Do you guys have these, or did my staff printed these, right? So we go over these. I didn't put those there. A thing from a Passion Planner. Passion Planner is a daily planner. It has like a whole daily schedule thing, but I just print out the goal setting sections from these and have the kids do them. And I think it's really, really valuable. I have the adults do them. And what they do is your passion roadmap. And I say, okay, 5 minutes, write down your whatever's magical, things that you could do in a lifetime, 3 years, 3 months, and 1 year, your goals, things that you want. And don't hold back. Don't say like, oh, that's not realistic. Because sometimes things that are unrealistic you can actually do. Take the time, write it down. Because if you don't write it down, you're not gonna think twice about it. It's gonna escape your head. You're gonna get distracted by something on your phone. You're not gonna go for it. Write it down on paper. Okay. Then I say prioritize. Go back to each section. Circle the one that has the biggest impact on your life and the thing that you care about the most. Okay. They're starting to identify things they want. High school kids, especially, and adults, they're usually too cool to be like, no, this is like really what I want to do. Like I want to run in this race, or like I want to gain 20 pounds, or I want to lose 20 pounds, or like I'm pissed at my ex-girlfriend, so I want to lose 50 pounds and like look jacked. You can say that. That's cool. Like I always tell people, like everyone has motivators. If they're paying you to come here, there's something they care about, right? So have them write that down. Then from there, pick the one that you think has the biggest impact on your life and that can probably affect all the others, and write it down. Write a due date. Like set yourself a goal, like a realistic. Remember the old acronym SMART goals. SMART, what is it? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. Like you have to put a date down, right? And it can be whenever, but figure out what it is. Okay. Then add specifics. You have to start to clear it up a little bit more. Like the carrot can't be way out there. You got to be able to see your way there. And then start to write behaviors that are going to support that. Like what behaviors, if you want to lose 20 pounds, what behaviors are going to support that on a daily basis? Those are micro goals, right? And I'll get into those right here, right? So process goals are things that are achievable, flexible, and progressive, and they're connecting daily behaviors to the outcome. They help you get to the carrot, right? Because sometimes athletes say, like, I want to gain 40 pounds, okay? Like, what are you going to do to gain 40 pounds? Great. This kid, Cam, my summer group, showed up, nice kid, literally weighed 110 pounds. Like, he was so skinny. He's like, I need to gain a bunch of weight this summer for hockey. I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? I don't know, work out. I'm like, all right, that's a step, but there's a lot more to it because you could come here all summer and probably not gain anything. What do you eat? I don't eat before I come in. I said, all right, well, let's food log. You have to food log for me every day. Oh, I don't want to have to do that. I'm like, dude, how do I even know what you're eating? So having them under, like, he didn't even think that was like something he had to think about. His food log came back, this is not a lie, didn't eat breakfast. Left here, had a bowl of cereal with no milk. He didn't even get any protein. So I said dry cereal. Okay? Then at night, I'm like, what'd you have for dinner? Piece of pizza, chips. Like, I'm like, do you have parents? Are you homeless? Like, you eating? No, but he just didn't have, like, he's like, no, my parents just, like, let me, like, eat whatever. I'm like, okay, so we need to, like, talk to your parents. Like I have to meet with your parents once. Like, there's all things that get identified by having these conversations. And so then my only goal with him, I said, every day, like I'll tell you how we set goals. Like, this is a different player, different athlete. I said, every day we're just going to eat breakfast. I don't even care what it is. Like, anything. Just because he wasn't eating breakfast. So anything is more calories. Well, I can work on quality. Like, for instance, Todd Wright, he's with the 76ers now, right? And he used to be with Texas. He was saying, like, that when Kevin Durant and those guys were there, they weren't eating breakfast. He says, Pop-Tarts. Will you guys eat Pop-Tarts? We'll do Pop-Tarts every day. And any nutritionist walks in that room and is like, you guys are giving them Pop-Tarts. Well, they weren't eating. See how skinny Kevin Durant was back then? Yeah, it's not that skinny anymore. Okay. Then he's like, then I said, okay, maybe we can do an egg waffle. Okay. Then maybe we can do a breakfast sandwich. Like, you have to build habits. So this kid, he's like, I'm gonna have cereal. He had cereal for like 2 weeks, and I was like driving me nuts when he said cereal. He was putting milk on it, at least some protein. Not the ideal thing, but then I said, he's like, I don't really like the cereal. I'm like, will you eat oatmeal? Yeah, I'll eat oatmeal. So he had oatmeal. It's a couple weeks. So now we're 4 weeks into like a 10-week summer. Week 5, week 6, he starts hard boiling an egg. Well, I said, dude, he goes, I'm tired of the morning. Hard boil a bunch of eggs. You can eat them all week. He's like, oh, I'll do that. Then he was having 2 eggs with the oatmeal. He gained 17 pounds over the course of the summer. Now, he's still skinny as all hell. He's 17 pounds heavier, though. Okay, we're making, we're building behaviors. He started to have protein. He's like, I have chicken after I work. I'm like, okay, like, maybe next year we gain a little more weight. It's a long-term process. But if I just said, like, hey, man, you're going to have eggs every morning, you have this, nothing would have got done. He wouldn't have done it. So, example, there's another hockey player. This is the kid Ryan I was talking about. 15 pounds over the summer, tougher on the puck, win state championship. I'm like, these are the things, you're going to write down your process goals. I knew if he did these every single day, it's like cheating. He will do, all these things will happen. Like, if you're doing this long enough, you can program the outcome. You can, if you do the right behaviors. It's about getting them to do them. You're going to come in 4 days a week, not just you, but your team. Because, like, you can't win the championship alone. They all have to work out. Okay? You're going to eat breakfast every day. Again, I didn't even care. I said, I had a group text. This is my favorite way to do it. I put my whole group, when I have a group of high school kids, or even a group of adults, I'll say, we do a group text. The next 2.5 weeks, it's breakfast. Everybody texts a picture of the breakfast to the group text because it's funny. Because they like make fun of each other and they try to one-up each other. But then it creates like a communal thing. There's a tribe atmosphere. And you can win with that. So they all text their stuff in. Everyone's going to have a protein shake every day, and I need 6 to 8 hours of sleep. You can't stay up playing freaking, I don't know, whatever the game is that they all play, until like 2 in the morning because you're never going to get bigger. Okay? All those things happened. Okay? They were already a good team, so that's helpful. Do you know what time it is?
4:11.
Okay, I got time. Okay. So that other guy, Wendell, still work with him. Still working on some of these things, okay? But he wanted to lose 22 pounds. We did that. He wanted to improve his aerobic capacity, his cholesterol, blood sugar. He has like a very complicated health history, okay? I said, I just need you here 2 days a week. Show me you can do that, because he would cancel a day here, cancel a day there. Right? I can't make it in today. Dude, 2 days. Just put it on your schedule. It's non-negotiable, okay? He wasn't drinking any water. Like, he doesn't bring water. He's like, I don't really drink water. I drink like soda, coffee, and wine and beer. Okay. He's like, there's water in those. I'm like, not quite enough. But so if I told him to do 4 20-ounce bottles of water a day, that's still not even hydrated for his size. He's like 240 pounds. He would be going to the bathroom all the time. He'd be like, this sucks. So I said, just do 1. Let's just say you do 1 a day, consistently. Okay, then we'll do 2 a day. And you're like, we're dealing with children here? Yeah, we're dealing with grown children. People don't grow up. They just get bigger and older. Okay? And I'm like, I need you at home just to do a little bit of aerobic work. Either go for a walk for 30 minutes or ride your bike for like 25 minutes. And you can watch Sports Center. Like, I don't care. Put your heart rate monitor on, keep it at 130. That's it. He has the money. He bought a bike from here and he rides it. Okay? And then again, average 6 days. This is the one we haven't got yet. He's like a workaholic, doesn't sleep. Okay? But again, like these are easy goals to set. If you set them low enough, they really can change someone's life. I think sometimes we try to go 2 steps ahead instead of 1 step ahead. Try to go 3 steps ahead. Smaller baby steps will create behavior change. And Precision Nutrition is really good at this. Like if you haven't looked at any of their like coursework, they do a really good job framing. The course is about nutrition, but it's really about behavior change. And that's kind of how I started to think about these things. Okay. Another book, 1 Minute Manager, you could read this in an hour. Like literally, you can read it in an hour. It's about managing people in business, but it's about managing people. Like so, whether it's coaching or it's your employees, I highly recommend it. And it helps you deal with goal setting like this: set goals, reevaluate. Set goals, reevaluate. And I always think about this when I try to go through this stuff. So they talk about like, we talked about this passion planner. What's your big goal? What's the big game changer for you, right? Okay. Then what are your process goals? What are the things we're going to do every single day to support that? Okay. You're going to eat breakfast every day. Have your 1 bottle of water, whatever it is. Them acknowledging it and committing to doing it. I always ask them, like, write it down in here and sign it and say you're going to do it. Because it's not to me. It's a commitment to yourself. Like, it's not my goal, right? It's your goal. And having that communication. And then when they're here on a weekly, daily basis until we do a follow-up check-in, depending on what the goal is, maybe we check in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever it might be. Checking in with them. How are we doing? How are we doing? Then when we get to our date or to our check-in, praise or critique. Hey, you did a great job. Let's change the target. Or critique. Hey, why didn't you do the things you said you were going to do? And the reason I do that, for 2 reasons. 1, it keeps them accountable to themselves. 2, they don't come to you and say, why didn't I lose weight? Because I used to have people be like, well, I didn't lose any weight. I'm like, well, you didn't do any of the things I asked you to do. But there's a big disconnect sometimes, especially with people who come in for weight loss, that they think they should just show up to your gym and be thinner in a few months. I'm like, oh, well, I can drink and eat a lot when you're not here. Like, you're only here for a few hours a week. So setting it out to them and being like, these are the behaviors. And if I say, like, it's all right if that's not the goal you want, we can just change your goal. Like, you can still come. It's still good for you. You just might not lose 30 pounds, 40 pounds, whatever it might be. And being frank with them and being confident enough to tell them, like, hey, this is how we're going to go about doing this. And like, that's what, if you like some of the big weight loss things, like Ken and Vinny have worked with Marie out there because they've been really good at setting goals, following up, and setting behaviors every day. And having a great client like her who buys into the process and commits to it is a big part of it.
So, I mean, granted, I'm sure you probably work with a lot of clients as well, but I mean, like working with groups of, or not groups, but like clientele of like 70 to 90 clients.
Mm-hmm.
How on earth do you manage, keeping track of all of that and then following up with everybody on a
It's
weekly
hard.
basis?
It's really hard. And there's be some people who are going to be more emotionally taxing and tougher, and like are going to take more of your time to do it. Like I have a group, an adult group of like 12 people, right? I can think of like 3 or 4 that like take like a lot of my time and energy, lots of emails, lots of communication, stuff like that. I have others that are a little bit easier. Their goals are a little bit more definable. They're smaller, easier to tackle because they're fairly happy. They're like, I just kind of come here because I want to exercise. That's fine. Like, let's just have that conversation. I would feel bad if you were in my group and I didn't ask you, hey, what are you here to achieve, right? And some people are very frank, like, honestly, I come here because I feel good. I like the people. I don't, from a health standpoint, they're fairly healthy. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And if there's things you want to work on, let's talk about them. If there's things in the weight room you want to work, sometimes those people, it's just like, hey, I want to get stronger at this lift. That's really easy. I don't have to manage it. Someone who needs to lose 80, 90 pounds, that's like a daily thing where I'm like, okay, send your food log this week, or send your your lifestyle sheet this week. Like, what did you do? Those are tougher, right? So, I mean, it is taxing, right? And
what if you can't get responses from them?
like they're not interested in responding?
Like we have clients that pay for like 4 times a week and won't respond. They just don't show up.
And then again, so that's someone I'm like, then your goal isn't your goal, right? Like for me, like if they say that they want to lose a bunch of weight, but then they don't show up or they don't respond to check-ins, well, then that's not actually your goal. You just said it's your goal. And I'll have the conversation with them. I'll be like, hey, just want to follow up. Yeah, I'm really frustrated. Well, you'll be less frustrated if you just accept that you're just not doing the things you need to do. And sometimes that frank conversation wakes them up a little bit. Sometimes it doesn't, So you can only lead someone so far down the path. It's the same thing with athletes. Like I've had athletes who like swear to me they want to get to the next level. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't actually want to. Like, you just like the idea of it, but the grind isn't like they're like, oh, I'm on the grind. No, you're not. Like, you skip workouts all the time. You stay out late. Like, it's not fun getting better, right? So it's usually like a frank discussion. It can be frustrating if you're someone like you who cares.
Yeah.
They probably care less.
But I mean, like if you text them, a couple times a week, you emailed them, you've called them, you've left voicemails.
Yeah.
I mean, the only option at this point, I feel like, is like literally showing up on their doorstep.
Yep.
I mean, do you actually go show up on their doorstep, or do you
Video
just kind
text.
of
Do a funny video text.
No,
I've
I've
done those before
yeah.
too.
And you know
I
what?
mean, usually they don't respond, or they tell me
Fine.
that they just need time, and
Fine.
like 2 months have gone by, they're still paying for 4 times a week.
can't. I mean, that's their choice. At some point, like again, the people are adults. Like that's their choice. I'm like, okay, well, I'm here if you need me. And maybe like we have a guy that we've had. He's come and gone for years since as long as I've worked here. I've seen him lose 200 pounds. I've seen him gain 200 pounds. I've seen him lose 200 like multiple times. Right now, he's off the wagon. He's not here. I saw him last week. I'll come in when I'm ready. All right, Hank. Mike and I will text him in now and then, check in with him. Yeah, man, I don't know when I'm ready. And then when he's back, he's like an all or nothing guy. I can't like some people just that's who they are, and it's to their detriment lots of times. But
He legit lost and gained back 200 pounds.
oh yeah, you've seen. I saw him this week. He was 400 pounds. He was.
He's actually, there's a video on him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We have it. Yeah.
You guys can.
I saw-
Okay.
Yeah. He DJ'd Brendan's wedding this past weekend. He was there. I was like, hey man, I'll see you in this week. I'm almost ready. I'm like, okay, fine. Just try to be positive. It's tough. Okay. And then the idea of like creating your tribe, whether that's your people that work for you, who are your tribe, or your athletes. Like this is cool because Craig didn't tell them all to wear the same shirt. They just did it because they were like, oh, it's cool. They're on the same team. They self-coordinated that, which was awesome because he trains a team of kids. Okay. And part of that is it's really interesting. A lot of sometimes coaches are like, oh, I'm not into like social media. I'm not into like the technology piece of it. But this day and age, you have to be. That's a whole nother form of communication. Like half your kids have their head in their phone. Half your adults have their head in their phone all the time, right? So no matter how much I put up the whiteboards out there, no matter how much we put out these things and talk to them in the group, right? You know how you get contact with them? The stuff you do. Put the media together. Because I've people here who like I've tried to educate in person. I've tried to put the boards up. They're like, hey man, I saw your video. It was like awesome. I'm like, I'm here every day. Like every day. You walk by me, I put the stuff up, I talk about it, we do workshops. I put out an Instagram video or a YouTube video, you saw it. And when I started to get that, I was like, wow, that's a piece that I need to think more about because I'm connecting with people, even in my own gym. Much less the people way outside here, like all thousands of people that see it. But the people here who are like, that's the medium they want. Like even my athletes, they're like, oh, I saw you guys on the Instagram page. I'm like, I try to talk to you guys about this in the group. You're not interested when I say it. But maybe that light wakes them up, right? So I think part of your communication, part of your leadership should be using these because they're obviously like the biggest communication mediums that we have in this day and age. So you have to find a way to do it. And that piece of leadership, I think, can't be understated, right? I got 10 minutes, so I'm going to get through the programming piece for sure. Okay, so going from leadership, I think that's the most important thing. But programming, I think having a strong grasp of what you believe in from a coaching standpoint is really, really important. Okay, and that starts with understanding principles and teaching your team about what the principles are that matter, right? Because if everybody's on board about like the big rocks, we argue at staff meetings all day about the execution and the little things. We don't argue about the principles. Like we all have an understanding of what we believe, but we might argue about the drill we like, how it should be coached, where it fits in the program, things like that from a logistics standpoint. That's fine. But I don't think there's really anyone on the staff that doesn't get like the fundamentals of what we do at MBSC. And it's just because Mike and I and everybody have drilled it into each other's head through staff training and through communication, through the educational products that we have, putting it through our staff, making sure they go through kind of like MBSC boot camp through their internship and through their early times as an employee. Okay, so like some simple things I know that everyone gets. Number one, do no harm. We don't want anyone to be in pain. We don't want people to hurt. Okay, and that like everyone here will ask the question, hey, how does this feel? It doesn't hurt. You sure it doesn't hurt? Is there a better option? The ideas of like the FMS, the stuff that Gray and Lee have put together are pretty fundamental in what we do, how we look at movement, how we choose exercises, how we choose if someone should or should not do an exercise. And then the stuff that we teach in CFSC from a programming design standpoint and a progression regression standpoint, I like to think anyone on that floor is going to have a pretty good understanding of all of that in a grasp, right? And we want to make sure that sometimes you have to realize like you have to almost over teach it. because especially if you get new staff members all the time, like we're always like it's a field where there's a lot of people in and out, right? So you got to keep teaching it, keep teaching it, keep teaching it until you're blue in the face. Because if people get that, then you're already a leg up. Because most times you walk into a gym and it's a bunch of freelancers working there, whether they're employees or private contractors. They're people freelance. Okay. When it comes to programming, thinking about how do we choose exercises based off risk. Okay. We want to have low risk, high reward. Again, you're dealing with high volumes of people, different backgrounds, different movement histories, different injury histories. Okay, how do we keep people healthy? Because at the end of the day, if people get hurt here, they're not going to come back and they're going to tell people they got hurt here. Right? If they tell people they got hurt here, they're going to tell like 20 people they got hurt here. Right? And that word of mouth is the biggest way to grow or ruin your business. Right? And most of all, we just don't want to hurt people. Like you want people to feel good. Right? So you always think like, is there a better exercise choice that we can make? And I show this because this has happened multiple times. And we talk about why we don't like to necessarily do sprinting on the treadmill, why we don't have some people do sprinting on the treadmill, because I've seen people do this on a treadmill and go shooting off the back of it, right? Like you always think, like Mike talks about, I even know all these stories like 1,000 times over about, oh, you know why we don't have any stability balls in the treadmill room. You ever see a stability ball go under a treadmill? You know what happens? They don't burst. The treadmill goes up, okay? And if someone's on it, the treadmill will still go up. Those are anti-burst balls because they don't burst. So this happened. Treadmill at BU, Mike had a stability ball go under the treadmill. Treadmill kicked up, flipped up, broke the mirror, and was vertical. It was still running, and the stability ball was still underneath, right? Or maybe if one of those small med balls goes on the treadmill, it'll rip right through and rip the machine out. Like it'll happen. Like so, there's little things like that. We're always drilling to our staff, like no balls in the treadmill room. I don't want adults necessarily sprinting on the treadmill. I don't want them tripping and falling. The kids are pretty good. The little kids, they tend to bounce, come right back up. But they also usually don't fall. And we usually mostly try to run either on the we got to see Mike had the non-motorized treadmills in today. That's why. Because we want to do more sprinting and running inside when the weather's not as good and like when we don't take up as much space. So if we get the non-motorized treadmills, they're better for sprinting. People don't fall off them. Like all these things go into our equipment choices, our program design all the time. So we don't want people to get injured. Okay. Don't overcomplicate things for yourself. Again, when you have to build things to scale, you have to simplify them. There's no way you can scale a fitness business if you're writing 100 different programs. Like I like the idea, like everybody's a unique little snowflake and they're perfect and they should have this program. That's great and true. If they're paying for personal training, give them that because they're paying the price point and they're paying the coach to do that. But if you have like 50 people in front of you, right? And you're like, oh, I'm going to write all these programs. You're never going to even coach it. And then you're going to go crazy. Make it simple, have principle-based training, and that 80-20 rule, the bell curve works really, really, really well. And if you have people who understand a system, like a progression-regression model like we do, you can make adjustments. You go in my athlete group, my adult group, nobody has the same program, but they started with the same template. We just have a strong belief system and progression system that allows us to make adjustments. Because I see a lot of coaches like this. I also see a lot of coaches doing this. Don't worry about what someone else is doing somewhere else. Social media makes it harder and harder for people to make decisions on their own, right? So I have all these coaches here being like, hey, I see this person in New York doing this. I see this person in California doing this. I see this person in Chicago doing this. And I'm like, that's great. See what we have here? Focus on what's going on inside the walls here. If we can take a piece of that and make what we're doing better, perfect. Don't try to put square pegs into round holes. It won't work. Okay, what are the problems that you see in your own gym? How can you solve those? Ask those questions. If those things that you see out there at court, like I go to more continuing than anybody, but I come back and there's a Ron Husker quote, said this at PRI when we went there. How can you take the program that you know and love and make it better by the things that I taught you here? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't throw everything out when you go home on Monday. Take little pieces, build and change. Like our program has changed a lot over the time that I've been here, but it's still pretty similar. Like the structure is the same. Little pieces have changed. We've added in this, we've added in that, we've taken out this, right? So I think sometimes we get like so enamored by what everyone else is doing outside, four walls of our own building, and then we swing and we miss on what we're trying to do. And I see that happen to coaches all the time. Think about, that's it, right? So then we put these athletes into buckets, put these adults into buckets, an intro adult, returning adult. Then based on what they're doing in that phase, for that 4-week phase, I'll make adjustments for hey, you have a back injury, you're not going to do swings, we know that you're going to do a shuttle jump, or you're going to do a dumbbell snatch, okay? You're going to do maybe even a jump squat because you don't get the eccentric load, right? Or hey, you have a knee injury, we're going to take out all the knee dominant stuff, put in hip dominant stuff, right? you're training for football, right? And we don't have any back squatting in the program. When you go to your college program and your strength coach is going to back squat you. It's my responsibility to back squat you, even though it doesn't fly with our philosophy. I have to prepare you, right? So I'll find a way to put that in the program. So we make adjustments based on the template. But if you start with the same template for everyone, it's much easier to make adjustments rather than going the other way around. Charlie Weingroff always says, start at the finish, right? Find the results you want. If you had an ideal college athlete, if you had an ideal 45-year-old accountant, how would you train him or her? Then make adjustments after. Don't build it based on their injuries or their limitations, okay? What do we got, 428?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So when it comes to periodization, realize most people that are going to come see you, youth, teens, college, regular people, have really low training age. Much lower. We always program this advanced stuff because we like it. Like, the random person off the street has very little experience. Even professional athletes come in. They're not professional athletes because they lift weights. They're professional athletes because they're good at their sport. They come to you as a supplement. We forget that. Okay? Low time to dedicate to training professional sports also, right? So they don't have mastery or expertise of any of these things, really. Okay? Concurrent progressive resistance, doing sets of 8, sets of 5, sets of 3. Okay? Like, you can get really strong by just being like, hey, we're doing phases of 8s, phases of 5, phases of 3s, and we come back around. Add 2.5 pounds each week. Add 1.25 each week. Okay? Because there's a big, big, big ceiling for progressive resistance that most people don't hit because they don't train enough. Like, you guys hit it because you train all the time, like 4 or 5 days a week, and you're doing it for years. Most of the athletes see you are not there. Little plates, like I said, 2.5, 1.25. Like, I could get kids stronger in bench. They start the summer with like no bench press, and they're benching like 200 pounds to start the summer when they had like nothing when they came, just because like it's like cheating at that age, and they have little experience. True block programming, like the stuff that people like read, like, you know, Super Sport, all these books are like this thick and they're in Russian. That really only works for singular event-focused athletes who are at a certain level of training. Okay, like if I can train a track athlete for 4 years from now for the Olympics and they have a pretty good level of training, you could block things. It definitely works. A 12-year-old, 13-year-old, a 45-year-old man or woman who goes on vacation and then has like work and family things, that's not going to work because you start to break the cycle. So really think like, am I giving this person the best thing that they can? And usually concurrent and progressive resistance is going to be the best approach. Okay, I have to take a client at 4:30, but maybe we can find time to finish this tomorrow. So I'll get in their ear about this, okay? Sound good? I have to take a client at 4:30, but maybe we can find time to finish this. Yeah, I was feeling good on a roll, so I like that. Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed it. Right here. Yeah. So we're on program design here. So right back to a different outfit for now. So when we're building programs, I think, again, we talked about things being too complicated, people making it harder for their own good, trying to do too much. And I think you just want to think, what are the fundamental skills that we want to check off for all the athletes to come in? And one thing I always say is, like, if I listed off these things, like, anyone who would look at this, like, those are fundamentals, but that's like an entire program. And if you think of your best athlete, like the best person you have who's probably best in the weight room and most athletically inclined, they probably do all these things well, right? But I can't think of like a bunch of athletes that do all these things well, even some of your best ones, right? Like, the bar for the mastery in the weight room isn't that high, but you don't really need much more than that. You know what I'm saying? Like, the low-hanging fruit's what's going to get us to where we need to be as far as the weight room goes. So, like, especially the stuff on the floor, and this is something we've been talking about as our staff really recently, like the stuff before we even get into the gym, the stuff we do on the turf over here. Skipping, can they all skip well, forward, backward, sideways, all those types of things, right? Because those are some of the things in the program that sometimes people just kind of like, all right, skip, and then they just watch a bunch of people skip badly. And you're like, well, you got to coach that like you would the bench, because from a movement quality standpoint, that's a movement just like anything else that needs to be drilled. And sometimes, and we as a staff probably weren't drilling it hard enough to our staff to coach it harder. Same thing, shuffling, crossover, cutting, twisting, jump, hop, bound, and throw, all movement fundamentals. We're thinking about working with sports or with adults, like just basic jumping land mechanics. They might never do a single leg hop ever, but like we should still drill good jump every single time that they come in, okay? Hang clean, or maybe they're doing kettlebell swing if it's an adult, okay? squat, deadlift, split squat, push up, row, single leg deadlift, plank, and run. Like if someone can do those things well, I'm like that's probably a pretty healthy individual in the adult program that's coming to see us. So I mean, all fundamentals, but probably the difference maker for us. When it comes to managing the group on a whole, one thing that I think I've learned here, and I see that our coaches have learned here via the internship program, is how to actually manage the group. So I'm not going to talk about the coaching cueing yet, but really like, okay, don't bite off more than you can chew. If you need help, ask for help. Like I always say to coach, like if you take a second, if you walk into your group and be like, go find an intern. Tell me, hey, I need to move someone around. Like when I'm out there floating, I'm always like, okay, if I see an intern like with a group of 5 kids, I'm like, I go to Steve's group that has like 20 kids, right? Like learn how to manage your resources. And then if you have if you can move kids around to be with an intern a little bit of a part of the time, or you can, divert some of the coaches around to keep a good ratio. Like I'd rather have extra coaches and have the quality really high. And I know, like you said, the big thing you guys need is coaches, right? And that's the hard thing to come by. But for us, like I'm throwing as many of them on the floor as I can when it's busy, okay? And then program for the 80%. Think, okay, if you even look at like this group, like, and even our pro athletes, like there's going to be newbies and there's going to be like people who've been here for a while. Even at the highest level, we need to still think about programming for the bell curve, okay? Because you're always going to be trying to bring some people up, and you're going to be taking other people and slowing them down. At the end of the day, you're going to be servicing them as best we can. Okay, and when we gauge for intensity, same thing. Whenever I'm getting feedback from the group, especially with athletes, I'm always you can't gauge from the laziest guy, you can't gauge from the hardest working person, because you're going to get 2 different answers. I always try to talk to everyone in the middle and be like, how do you feel today? How's the workout been? Because if I get multiple answers in the middle where people are like, oh, I was sore, this didn't work out, then we probably change the program, right? Or we have to take some volume off or change the conditioning, things like that. And again, going back to the slide I talked about earlier, is basing your program off of your settings and limitations and not somebody else's, because the things that someone else might be able to coach great might not be the things you can coach great. That's okay. Figure out what works here. Like sometimes I see these sprint drills that some people post and they look really, really good. I'm like, we should try these. Then I go try to take a group of 13-year-old kids and I'm like, this looks like shit. And it's because we don't have the same, Mike said, raw material. We don't have the same raw material. We don't have the same athletes to do it. But maybe we don't have the same coaches to do it, right? Maybe the demo that I can give isn't as good as what the person who taught him on the YouTube video was. That's fine. At the end of the day, I just want a better result. So you have to be honest with yourself about what your coaches can do, what you can do, and what your equipment and your facility can handle. Because at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. People ask about ratios. I say 10-ish to 1. It changes, okay? Like if I get a group of 15 kids, I can handle a group of 15 kids, right? Like one of these newer guys or girls that work here probably can't do that. Like it's not ideal. Like I would still rather have an intern because it lets me divert my energy and focus more on one kid. But at the end of the day, I can handle that. If I see that with one of these like first-year coaches I have, I'm gonna move things around right away. I don't even give them a shot because I know that there'll be some leaks that we have to fill. But that tends to work for us from a coaching standpoint. Okay, staff communication. It's probably the hardest thing for us to deal with, and it's probably the thing that I think is the best for us, but it's also our weakness as well. Like it's our strength and our weakness. Our staff meetings this time of the year are really helpful. They've gotten way better since us as a staff have gotten better at kind of arguing about it. To be honest, our best staff meetings are the ones where we're willing to have some disagreement about what is going on and how we think it should be done. But at the same time, as the staff grows, like our staff's bigger than this now. This is from like a couple of years ago that I took this picture. It's harder and harder. We talk about the telephone game. Like we could talk about it in the staff meeting, then talk about it again in an email, talk about it again in person on the floor, and someone's still going to screw it up and do it differently, having a misunderstanding. It's just the way it is. So sometimes, like as someone who's been here for a while, I could think like I've heard this same staff meeting in this same memo, in this same email, the same conversation hundreds of times. But you have to, as a manager and a coach and a leader, realize like this person hasn't heard it enough times for it to sink in yet, and we have to continue to do it for it to be good. And like you have to be able to deal with that monotony. And just try to build in systems to make it work. And in that process, be willing to have some things go wrong from an experimental standpoint. Like we try stuff all the time that like Mike literally said that if you watch the last staff meeting, hey, let's try putting front squatting back into the program. Not front squatting for front squatting, but for hang cleans. And that was something we did right when I started, and we went away from a little while and went back. We were doing it this week, right? If it doesn't work well, we'll come back this next week and we'll be like, hey, how'd it look? No, not good. We'll take it out. You have to be willing to do that because the program won't move forward. And we have to be okay with looking down the floor and being like, okay, stop. and having the staff understand that, like, hey, things might change from time to time, but just we got to stay on it. And that it can be a challenge, but it's worth it to continue to try to progress things and make things better. And in the end, if everyone is in that process, if we're all making those decisions together, we're all in the staff meetings together, then we have a unified belief, because everyone felt like they were heard. Like I always tell people, if you leave a staff meeting and feel like, oh, I'm frustrated, why didn't you put your hand up? I'm at the point now where I'm like always, and when I was younger, I wouldn't have done that. But I think you have to, because then you truly believe in what's out on the floor. If I tell the people when they first start working here, if you feel like you don't believe in what we're doing, then you didn't contribute enough when we asked you. Because like I wouldn't have asked everyone in the meeting, like, hey, do you have a question, if I didn't actually want you to raise your hand. Because sometimes I feel like people keep those to themselves. But when they don't, then we all kind of believe in the same thing. Okay. And then on the floor, the big thing is about, organization. And if you go out there, sometimes it's a complete mess. But if you look at it right before 3 o'clock, we'll get it right back shaped up exactly where it needs to be, because when the groups run, they have to run orderly. For instance, like when I came in and worked out on Labor Day, we didn't have any groups, but Vinny was in here setting up for Tuesday at the end of the day, because he goes, when I show up at 5:30, or he wasn't even the one showing up, it was someone else, I want this place to already be organized. So all the boxes were set up, med balls were set up, everything looked like this. So that way someone can just come in and coach. Because we don't want to have to worry about all these other things. It's just one more factor. Especially when you have a client, a group. Like if you have someone doing that ahead of time, if you can get ahead of it, it makes a really big difference for the coaches. And this is directly the model that you guys have, right? There's a reason you map it out. And when I give this presentation, I gave it a Perform Friday. Like this was something a lot of people don't do. Like it seems common to every one of you because you're in it. But having a model that's repeatable and commercial friendly that still allows from variation within inside of these blocks. Okay, hey, this person's going to goblet squat, this person's going to do an assisted squat, this person's going to do a deadlift. Still fits in that strength 40 minutes and fits in hip dominant, knee dominant, push pull core, whatever it might be. Yep.
What's recovery mean to you?
So for me, in the system, cool downs, getting them over here, and something I'm going to start doing, because I've given people things that I have on my computer, being like, hey, this is what I want you to do after. But I'm going to start actually posting them on the wall over here. Hey, diaphragmatic breathing, reform roll these things, go back through stretch, do some longer, slower stretches, and take 5 minutes doing that, right?
And John's got some stuff on that too, right?
Yeah. Just think I always think like they come in the door stressed, where they breathe, we bring their nervous system back down to a place where they can take stress. Then we layer stress on, then maybe we take it back down a little bit, right? And then that, like what we just talked about before that, about the rest of the recovery stuff, I think that takes the rest of the way, right, till the next time they come back. Okay, and then same thing, when I was telling people, you have to map it out. Like Steve, before every program, like we do this every semester, Steve draws out a map in the meeting. And it's funny, like we laugh because it's like bad drawing. But like, because we have to move where things are. How many times have the sleds moved since you guys have been here? The sleds are here, they're there, they're here. But it's just because, well, this is where they have to be right now. This is where the single leg squats have to be right now, just from a logistics standpoint. But if you don't take the time to do it, then you have all these flow issues. So just continually reevaluating those. And then just going back to checklists, okay? And that's what the CFSC stuff really came from, is us trying to put together things where we could follow an order of operations and make it predictable. And again, this is a playbook, so sometimes there's audibles being called based on situations, but if we don't have a playbook to begin with, we don't have anywhere to even start. And this Checklist Manifesto is a great book by Atul Gawande, all about minimizing risk in surgery in hospitals and infections. Yep.
You hit on something. I know you're about to go into some different points here, but from your perspective, being a part of this team for a while, I think the acronym TEAM, together everyone achieves more.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question here, I promise, but it's like you started out with this and you saw everybody following a philosophy and a system. Whereas when a lot of people come into something, they're like, I want to do it my way, and I'm actually going to become more valuable to the industry, to myself, and to my people if I do it my way. What are the benefits that you've seen of kind of like, for lack of a better term, like kind of falling in line? Like what benefits have you seen, and have you seen others, and for the members, of course, too?
Well, I definitely got smarter by falling in line, because I allowed myself to be coached by Mike, to be the people that were here before me, and I was able to learn from that. Then falling in line with the people who are here, whether they're been here longer than me or been here for a year, like there's changes to our system that come from things that newer people suggest too, because I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that. So like us doing this like as a team every time we go to a meeting and every time we talk about CFSC, every time we talk about MBSC on the floor, like it's like, okay, how can we make adjustments? If I'm just trying to do it my way, like I'm gonna have blind spots. Everyone's gonna have blind spots. And at the end of the day, like it's not as gratifying that result. Like I can go on the floor and see Shy or like one of these guys who's younger coaching the way that we taught them to coach, and I'm like, oh, that's really awesome. As opposed to like me just trying to, you know, wave the flag all the time, you know. So find standing operating procedure, then continually tweak standard operating procedure because it's going to change. If you're doing a good job and you're learning and your business is growing, it's going to continually change. And ours has changed for two reasons. One, because we've gotten new knowledge. We've gone to courses. We've had speakers come in. We've learned new things. We've read. And because our business has changed. It's had to change from when I started here because we had way less volume. When we were in Winchester down the road, there was 2 adult groups. There was like no personal training. Way more space on the floor for us to do stuff. Way like Mike willing to be probably less cautious back then. Now things have grown. So our standard operating procedure has changed because of knowledge, but also because of the logistics of the business. Right? So both of those things have to continually tweak what you do. And I always encourage people to continually change your playbook, right? So if you have the planned rigidity, like I said, it allows some adaptability down the road because you have buffer space to make those changes, right? You have a framework to work off and principles to think about. So build these things on your own and then continually make progression and regression sheets for you to go off and your coaches to go off. And this can be mind-numbing, but it in the long run, it makes a huge difference because you have a set of beliefs that everybody understands, okay? And that goes beyond just saying, hey, like a double bell squat's harder than a goblet squat, or a kettlebell deadlift is easier than a trap bar deadlift. It also means how do we make decisions when it comes to injuries and intakes, right? And this is something Marco put together, and I like still, this is what I have our people follow in the adult groups to make quick decisions. And again, this is only going to catch maybe 80% of the people who come in. That's pretty good, right? Because there's going to be some things that you need to pull people out and do a one-on-one screen and have them come see me or have them come see John or whatever it might be. But at the very least, if we check their leg raise and we check their shoulder mobility and we check their toe touch, those are the mobility screens. If people get by the mobility screens and do the exercises that they're not supposed to do, that's when people get hurt. If someone's rotary stability isn't perfect and they do like a standing side toss, they're probably gonna be fine, right? But you're gonna look at them and be like, oh, they look like they rotate like this, right? But these are the ones that really are that we need to make sure we catch, right? So, okay, can they do those things? You can do that screen in like a minute, right? Lift your leg, try to reach your shoulders, touch your toes. Okay, that person, if they can't do it, they can't deadlift, can't overhead press, can't pull up, right? And I'd probably be cautious in a single leg deadlift and probably fix their leg raise, right? And then give alternatives, like real quick, like if I have a new coach and they know that, hey, make sure they get these things in within the workout, switch these for these, okay? Real simple twist. I can plug in a newer coach, have them do that, and then they can start to figure out as we go. And this started also, I remember when I first started taking some groups, like at the very end of my internship when I started to coach, like and get paid to do it. I had a kid in my group with like knee pain. I remember Mike being like 2 seconds, being like, pull him off, check his quad flexibility, see if his hip's tender on the side. If it is, have him roll and stretch, and do some glute activation. The kid did it, and his hip got better, and his knee felt better. And I was like, what? Like, how do you know that? It's like, yeah, just if you do that, most of the time it's going to work. And like, lo and behold, like 89% of the time it worked for people who had like just achy knee. And I'm like, okay, well, we can kind of, I remember always going back to that moment of being like, okay, well, we can maybe systemize some of these things to be a little bit more effective at what we do, okay? And having them understand, like, listen, this is our step-by-step process. Fix the toe touch, fix the hip hinge. And you can do this with just about any of the issues you might have, right? This isn't all the same person, clearly. But we want to make sure we follow the steps, okay? And, you know, I tend to like doing these types of flow charts to make decisions. For coaches, I think you can continue to do this for just about everything. You know, and I got a whole bunch of these things on the CFSC page on the backside of the website. So if you guys need these, I'll send them to you. And make sure I send you all these slides anyways to Sean. So same thing, knee pain, like have an order of operations. Remove all non-painful movements. Remove all knee dominant, remove impact, check hip mobility, quad flexibility, hip strength, and still make sure if it's something that nags, you can refer them out for somebody to see them, okay? whatever things you continually run into, there's probably a system you can build to work through it. And every time I read E-Myth or every time I read Traction, I'm reminded that I need to do this again and again and again. And this is one of the things I'm trying to do over here more, right? Because if you can do it for training, you can do it for massage, you can do it for rehab. And it's just about being able to put your head down in the books and put orders of operations together. And like I said, everyone gets this program. Like, this is the summer program from a couple of years ago. Like, everyone got this program that was an advanced high school kid or an advanced college kid. No kid actually did this exact program. I'd guarantee the minority of kids followed this through with no adjustments. Some kids had to regress, progress, change an exercise because of an injury, something they're training for specifically. But if you have the template that you think, hey, the average high school hockey player should do this, that's healthy, then you're going to be hitting out of the ballpark most of the time. Okay. I don't know how that slide got there. I feel like Mike. It's like hidden slide in there. So the big thing is, if you have a system that is like adaptable, then it's a smart program. And I don't think it's not about smart coaches, it's about like adaptable coaches, people who can make adjustments. And those are people who typically have a system and principles that they really steadfast in and they understand. And that's really what makes a great coach and a great system, is something you believe in. And so the last piece here is just about execution. It's really about coaching on the floor and cueing on the floor. So we talked about leadership and communication and having a culture, right? Then we talked about building a program and the logistics of, how do you build a program that adapts? But then on the floor, how do we actually communicate? What are the X's and O's? And these are the biggest things, like from an actual on the floor internship experience that I think our interns get, that sometimes people on the outside don't get, even if they just go through kind of the continuing ed and go through CFSC. Number one, you just have to be willing to work. At the end of the day, the people who we end up hiring, the people Bob want to hire, are the people who are out there all the time. I say if Bob doesn't hear and see you coaching, because Bob's here all day. Mike might come and go. He's always out there talking, right? But the big thing he does, he sees people out there. And if I don't see you coaching, I don't hear you coaching, then you're not someone we're going to hire. You know who I wanted to hire at the end of the summer? We had this girl from Costa Rica, right, Carolina. I'd be in here working, and she'd coach the warm-up in Spanish because the kids liked it, and I could hear her coaching while I was in my massage room, right? I said, take her, hire her, get her a visa, get her here. I'm serious. I'm sure we're trying to get her back here. But it's because she coached loud, she wanted to be out there, she was energetic. That's like having the personality in the hiring department. I can't give that to you. I can teach you the X's and O's. I can't make you want to be on the floor. Those are the people who you want, at the very least. And we want people who are high energy and demonstrate high energy when they're there, because it is contagious. Low energy coaches tend to have low energy clients, right? And I don't need Todd Durkin screaming in your face. Like, nothing wrong with that. Just that's probably not what we want here. But I don't want this either, right? I mean, they're paying for your attention for the hour that they're here, 90 minutes that they're here. So you have to give them that. And every client's gonna have a different type of personality, and they should be able to meet that. But there's some pretty low-hanging fruit I expect you to be able to achieve, and it's not doing those things the whole time they're here. But you go into most gyms and most corporate gyms, and you're gonna see that. Okay. Nicole Rodriguez used to have an analogy when she was the intern coordinator. She was like, be a shark. Like, sharks keep moving, they don't stop. Like, you shouldn't. I always get like, I feel like there's a tingle on my spine. Like, when I'm standing around, I feel like she's gonna come up behind me still and be like, what are you doing? Keep moving, because there's always something you can coach. When it's busy here, there's always something to coach. There's never nothing. You're never just like, just so good. Like, even with the pro group, like, you can coach Mike's pro group, right? And when you got middle school kids, like, there's never. So, like, I'm always like, coach this. All right, what do I need to go coach next? What do I need to go coach next? You should always feel like you're on the move. And I was telling coaches, like, if you don't feel that way, you got to continue to think, like, what's next? Because there's something. The kids might not tell you they need coaching, but they do. Right? And the other analogy we used to say is like, this was another one Nicole had said to me. If you put on a backpack, right, and you had a sand, your backpack was full of sand. Every intern had a backpack full of sand, and it was all different colors, right? And I put a hole in the bottom of your backpack. I don't want any piles by the end of the day. There shouldn't be a pile of your color of sand. It should be smooth sand. I want you to cover this entire gym. And I would think, like, I had my backpack on at the end of the day. I better not be piling up anything behind me. Like, keep moving. Because especially here, like, you should see like how many steps. You crush the steps in here. Oura Ring loves me by the end of the day in the summer. I had like 20,000 steps around this place, because it's like, just to get to my office, the other side, I'm like, I gotta go all the way around. Okay. Vantage point is a big thing. There's a reason we have mirrors in the gym, right? And even though this guy's got a sleeveless, he's a CFSC course, so I didn't give him a shirt. Okay, it's not to look at yourself. It's so we can see what's going on behind us. Like when I coach cleans, like we always tell us, our coaches, coach cleans from here, from behind, because I can coach this person effectively. And then what are the other things in the clean circuit? Plank, chop, and lift. I can literally look in the mirror and coach. So I see a kid, I'll be like, switch knees, because I can see the kid in the mirror. Hips up, because I can still coach this. Like use the mirrors, find where's the place I need to be. And I always tell coaches, like position yourself in a place where like, okay, this is the tricep again, clean, chop, and lift, plank. Where are they going to get hurt? Clean. Stay at clean, coach from there. Okay, when we have deadlift and chin up, I always have like, there's the chin up racks are right here, right? We'll say chin up racks are here, like that right there. People are deadlifting right there. It drives me nuts when they're coaching here and the chin up's behind them. I'm like, you can't see. Stand here so you can coach. Like I'm always moving the interns, like because like you're just ignoring, like they don't know that, but you have to. Now I have my spots. Steve and I will have our spots we always coach from. So you always try to coach them about like where to position yourself to make it the most safe and the most effective, and to be able to coach as many people at once. Because you have to be able to do that. If not, you drive yourself crazy, like doing this all the time, right? Another thing, eye contact. Mike can see every single one of them. Every one of them can see him. And even though they're going to clean facing the racks, because as you can see here, we always clean facing the racks and facing the mirrors so we can do it, right? He's teaching this way because he doesn't want them not looking at him. He doesn't want to not have eye. You ever have 13-year-old kids behind your back? It's not a good place. It's not where you want them. They're not going to pay attention if you don't give eye contact with them. So I would say, like, we're going to teach them facing this way, and then we're going to actually tell them, you are going to face this way, so I can see you when I talk to you. Notice something here, 2 athletes spotting each other. What happens if a coach is back here spotting? Can't do anything else. I was like, the first day, when we're teaching, hey, I bring another coach over, I bring an older athlete, and I teach with them. And I said, you guys are going to spot each other. I don't want you to be like, hey, coach, come spot me. Not because I don't like you, but because I can't do anything else. Like now I'm stuck in this rack, and I can't go around and do anything else. You guys should be able to do that, and then now you know how to do it. Now it's something I don't have to do. So take the time to teach those types of things. Again, cleaning up weights. It's not that I don't want to clean up weights. I'll help you if there's a lot of them. But if you guys take care of it, then I can go coach other things while you guys are cleaning up your trap bar. I can go coach the other athletes in the group. So all those types of things, teaching the athletes to do these things, I think is extremely important. Okay, we said this before, ask for help and delegate. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coaches there, plus me. I'm not pictured. For that group of 40, for that CFSC class. Like you want to make sure you have the bodies. Like always make sure you have the bodies. So that way, like there's no one that can't be seen and can't be coached, right? When in doubt, get more coaches. Then you also, like, the big thing is like finding your coaching swag. Like for me, like I'm not naturally an extroverted person at all, but I do enough public speaking that I'm comfortable speaking to a group. I'm comfortable coaching in front of a group because I've done it, right? But how I carry myself when I coach a group is different than how I carry myself every day. And I tell my interns, like, you're not going to feel natural up there shouting out commands and communicating to a large group and connecting with each kid until you do it for a while. So they have to find their style and how they carry themselves. And I always go back to Nicole Rodriguez because she was such an influence to me. Like watching her coach, I'm like, wow. Like, that's all I can watch. I can't take my eyes off it because she has a way about her when she coaches, right? And every coach is a little different. You have to figure out what your style is especially if you're running groups, and what works with the type of people that come to see you. And then with that, when I say finding your swag, I mean like balancing the coach that's very analytical and technical driven and focused versus the person who's the rah-rah person. Because they're 2 different people. Like I can think of multiple people on our staff who are this person. I can think of a couple people who are this person. And the best one, when I talked about leadership, I talked about autocratic and participative leadership yesterday, right? Same thing. Good coach can do this, right? Because you can't just yell and talk and say, work harder. Like we're not just focused on work rate. We're focusing on form as well. Everyone knows how to work harder if you yell at them. But then at the same time, if I have like a group of 10 kids and I'm just coaching one kid's like perfect pelvic position on the plank and I'm talking to him and I got a dumpster fire going on behind me, then I'm not being an effective coach either, right? So you have to understand when to focus in on one person and one thing and one cue, and then when you have to kind of take a broader view of what's going on with the group in front of you. And that's another learned trait. Like it comes with coaching a lot, and the coaches having enough wherewithal and you reminding them, hey, you got a bunch of kids cleaning over here. You can't just focus on this plank, right? And kind of opening up their eyes a bit, because some people seem to be better suited for personal training, and maybe that person does more personal training for you if that's the type of person they are. Because I've seen that before, and I've seen some people who are better at groups just because they have a little bit more of this in them, and they're able to get it across without hurting people, you know. And finding things in there that are both competitive and safe. We always err towards the side of safe, like more than we can, but we do want to find competition. Like the sprinting's the biggest example. Like we found a way to do time 10s, hard, aggressive, full speed sprinting twice a week, where it's self-competitive because they're looking at their own time. They're not racing against each other, right? Doing things that get them some sense of participative group practice, where they're doing push-ups in a circle, but they look good, right? Versus like saggy hips and heads going all over the place, right? So find a way to be able to get that atmosphere, because I think there's something that the tribal experience of training together, there's something valuable there. Clearly, like if you read the book Tribe, I highly recommend. You can learn a lot about working with groups. But you got to find a way to keep people healthy and safe too. And so like I think CrossFit's been so successful because they've tapped into the tribal piece of things. Now, we can question if they're tapped into the safety piece of things, but they figured that out now. So I think there's something to be learned there for sure, and how we can do that better, you know. Sam, did you have a question?
No,
okay.
just head on.
Okay. Teach and make teachers. So again, so I talked about how they were talking and teaching each other at bench. Like you can see Nick and Victoria teaching these girls about bench press, how we want to bench press, why we select weights the way we do, why we want them to set up the way we do. Take the time to have that couple extra minutes of conversation if you have to. Like we like to keep things moving. We always say like 1 minute coaching, keep it going. But sometimes you have to sit and teach, and then hopefully some of your best athletes, like some of my best athletes in my group, they teach. Like if I a bunch of times this summer, like I saw a new kid, and then like kind of not know what to do, and one of my athletes like, here, I'll show you what to do. And I'm like, for me, that is that's a success for me, that I did a good job. And it makes me so happy because I'm like, okay, that person's now showing me some leadership. And the more we can do that, the better. Okay. Again, go back to 1 minute manager. It's the same steps. Whether I say go long-term goal setting, right? We talked about long-term goal setting, right? Set a big goal, get agreement about the behaviors we're going to do, and then follow back up afterwards, right? When I teach that tri-set out there, I'll go back, hang clean, chop and lift, plank. I think about the same steps, but in a short term, right? So what would I essentially do is, 1 minute coach, right? But 20-second coach. Same thing. Hey, guys, we got a tri-set now. What we're going to do, we have 3 sets of 5 hang clean. Okay, 3 sets of 5 hang clean. I want to think ascending, light, medium, heavy. Okay, with that, we're going to go half kneeling, chop and lift. With chop, which knee is down, Damien? When we do chop, which knee is down? The inside knee or the outside knee?
Inside knee up, outside knee down.
Thank you. So inside. So he just gave me confirmation, acknowledgement that he heard what I said and he understood. Okay, and then hey, Damien, we're going to do plank. 20-second plank. How long are we going to plank for?
30 seconds.
Okay, 20 seconds. You got that? Got it. Right? Then the people don't listen. I always say kids don't listen. No one listens. Parents don't. Adults, no one listens. So, because what are we doing over here? So taking the time to get. Yeah, exactly. How many reps? Taking the time to ask the acknowledgement makes them listen, and then makes them internalize and do it again. It makes your life easier as a coach. Okay. Then also, if I tell them like, hey, light, medium, heavy, and say, hey, I want you to finish it this way on this set, then they think about those things. So just those little communication things can make a difference and save you that frustration of, wait, what are we doing? Like every single time you do anything.
The exact people I need to actually ask the question to.
Yeah, exactly. It's always. So when we're thinking about cueing, we're thinking about balancing visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. If you saw Nick Winkelman, he talked about the research where he said, it's kind of been debunked that people are only visual, or only auditory, or only kinesthetic learners. But we learn best when we use all the cues. The more rich communication we can use, the more we can give them everything, the more things are going to stick, right? So think about using each of these. Every time you cue, checking each one of those boxes some way, right? So kinesthetic cues. Anytime you can do something that gives feedback with you saying and doing nothing, it's better. Like for instance, like this guy, he knew right away when this came off his head was out of position, right? Right. So anytime you can set them up with conditions where they don't have to be told. So some examples of this, like rollouts. I always set up a bench block. If I don't want them to go any further, hey, touch the bench, come back. Okay? Big fan of whenever you can put stick on the back. Push up, hinge. I tell the interns when they're new, if you don't know what to do, just keep a stick in your hand all freaking day and walk around and coach planks, rows, deadlifts, whatever you gotta do. Squat to the box. There's a reason we squat to the box, because so many people would either not get to the box or go below where we want. Well, set the parameters up. It's one less thing you have to coach, less feedback, that they feel smarter. Like I would say, have you seen the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall? You know when he's trying to learn how to surf? And he's like, pop up. No, don't do so much. Get down. No, pop up. Do something. Like there's no, like they can't communicate because he's verbally not giving them the cues they need. That's how I feel sometimes when I'm trying to coach people, because they don't get it. But if you just put the stick on their back, they're like, oh, all right, I get it right away, right? Perfect. Hands-on coaching, though. Let this play. I'm just going to tell Jenny that I'm going to be late for the group. It's fine.
His voice doesn't change.
No. I'm just finishing a presentation. Hands-on coaching. That's my point. So I show, but we always talk about, like, we're not being hands-on enough when we're doing hang clean. She doesn't know, like, if she didn't know how to get in position, like.
Now again, if you get someone who can't get their elbows up in the catch position, we're going to try to actually, again, physically instruct somebody. You're going to get lots of lifters who are going to catch with the elbows in the low.
That girl's
No, that's Garnet. So that was the other woman in the picture with Nicole as my intern coordinator. Awesome.
Athlete in 30 who physically can't get into this position because they're not flexible enough. You're going to get lots of athletes who tell you they can't get into this position, but once you've demonstrated the motor pattern for them, shown them where their elbows should be, physically lifted them into that position, they're going to realize that they can, in fact, get a good catch position in the clean.
So you have to put your hands on them so they even understand the position. They just, especially things like hang cleans, is so foreign that, like, they don't understand. You have to take them every rep. You got to come behind the kid. When they catch, I say freeze, stay there. I can tell you what I have to do every time. Here, come up, stand up here. What I'll do, like, pretend you're in like a hang clean catch, right? And I'll be like, all right, sit your butt back a little bit, elbows up a little bit. Good, hold that for a second. Next time you clean, I want you to end up in this position. Here, do another hang clean, bring the bar down. Okay, here, every time, until they get it and make them pause. And eventually, like, it gets drilled into their head. Like, that happened to me when I was an intern. I remember them both coming behind me every time. Like, get your elbows up, get your shoulders back, get your hips back, and go through that checklist until it's part of them. And the science goes to show hands-on coaching actually helps people learn better. They talk about nerve growth factor, that's the picture. I don't know if that could be anything, but that's what came up when I looked up the research. Okay. But touch stimulates the release of nerve growth factor, which essentially acts as fertilizer in the brain because it helps you connect a physical feeling on the skin to the position you're supposed to be in, right? So you start to remember, okay, hey, I still remember, like, Garnet come behind me and tell me to pull my shoulders back, like, clear as day. So every time you watch me clean, I'm like, shh, 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 and I go through it because it gets drilled into me, okay? It's increased afferent sensory information from the outside. Every time you feel touch, that's sensory information that helps you build a nerve network to understand what you're doing. It helps you anchor those physical activities. Also helps every time you receive touch from someone coaching you is a release of dopamine, right? Now, touch has to be confident and appropriate, right? That's what we always talk about, like, when we're coaching. Like, you saw how Mike coached. Like, she knew she was going to be coached. He grabbed her shoulders, pulled him back. I would say, like, when you coach, like, if you're, like, not confident, it's creepy. If you're like, hey, like, I'm going to coach your shoulder, like, it's, like, kind of weird. Where it's like, hey, I'm just going to pull your shoulders back real quick, and this is what we're going to do. There's a big difference, right? And I'll tell them at the start, hey, I'm going to have to coach you in a position. I'm going to hey, I'm going to coach your shoulders real quick. I'm going to move your hips real quick. Just tell them, right? But you have to be willing to get people in a position, because if you try to just do it with your words, you're not going to get there. You have to put your hands on them and help them move, okay? And when in doubt, be a great demonstrator. I would say I'm not by any means the best athlete in this building, not even close. But I'll demo hard, and I'll give you a real good one. Like, at the end of the day, like, be a demo master, right? And for our interns, I'm always say, like, if you're not comfortable in the active warm-up, come in and do it on extra time, come in early, come in on the weekends and do practice skipping, practice shuffling, practice hopping, practice bounding. Because like if you haven't done it, like we've had some like fitness type people who didn't have an athletic background come in for the internship. Like we had a girl quit the first week because she was like, I didn't know I was gonna have to skip and shuffle and jump and hop. I thought I was just gonna be like the fitness that she saw on Instagram. And I'm like, I'll teach you, we'll take the time. But like it can be sobering for people. So with our staff, I want to make sure, can you demo? Because at the end of the day, if you demo well, they're going to do it. Like Mike always uses the example of Steve Bigelow's side tuss. He has a really pronounced like elbow like thing. Every kid in his group does the same way. It's really funny because he like does it like so pronounced. They're going to do what they see. They'll catch the bad habits too. So you got to get rid of those. Okay. Like again, I go back to Nicole. This is like big Nicole Rodriguez love fest here, but like every demo in her group was like this. I saw her demo this hard, like full speed. Okay, the kids in the group moved better because they watched her do it. And her cues were great, but everything was full speed. Lose weight. So maybe they've worked out, but nowhere like this. And they come in and they look around, they see all the professional athletes' pictures on the wall. They see fairly fit people working out. They see the jerseys hanging, the music's loud, this big, scary strength conditioning gym. And they come in and it's someone who probably needs to lose 100 pounds or pretty overweight, and they start to foam roll and they're already sweating and falling off the foam roller. And like, if you ever teach someone to foam roll for the first time, it's a disaster sometimes, right? And then they immediately think like in the first 5 minutes, like, I don't belong here, I made a mistake. I can't even freaking use this foam roller thing, okay? That's why I don't foam roll with like brand new people or overweight people or elderly people, because I'm like, it's just, they're gonna feel like shit. I just take them to like some standing stretches, we do some active warm. I do like 2 sets of 8 squat press out, 2 sets of 8 ring row, maybe a light farmer carry, a plank on an elevation. Oh, you crushed it today, right? Because they don't have any reference to understand that this is still regressed, but they feel really good, right? So because people are always going to have a negative mindset. They're going to, we have a natural negativity bias, which I think I put this in here, right? Where like, think about from an evolutionary standpoint, what was more beneficial for us to survive, right? So Sean and I are walking down by the Aberjona River in Woburn over here, right? And he gets eaten by an alligator, right? And I run off. I'm out of here. Every time I go back by there, the hair on the back of my neck's gonna stand up. Because I'm like, God, there's danger here. Like from an evolutionary standpoint, we are wired for negative experiences because that's what helped us evolve and stay relevant and continue to survive and make it to the next generation, right? That we know. So what happens is people tend to have positive experiences that pass right through. Negative experiences stick with people. That's why we have trauma. That's why people have trauma that they deal with forever, right? And with exercise, it's no different. They're going to talk about the negative experience. How many people have people who have trained with you that have a negative experience somewhere else? And they're like, oh, I can't deadlift. I hurt my back this place. I understand. That's why you have pain sensitization. They might have pain when they get in your deadlift, maybe just because they're a negative experience, not because they have any physical trauma there. We know that happens all the time, right? There's sensitized pain. I had a woman here that had all sorts of injuries. I could list knee, shoulder, back, toe, hand, everything, okay? Great training session that day. We had a PR on our overhead press. We had a PR on our deadlift. But doing ladder drill in the warm, she had like a little tweak in her knee, like that, like just flared up for a second. But it was like, I was trying to recap with people at the session about like, hey, how did we do today? Like, okay, just really upset about my knee. I'm like, you PR'd on 2 things today, and like you generally weren't really in pain. You just had a little, but like that was a thing around it. People focus on negatives, so you have to go out of your way to try to highlight the things they do really well, things where they have successes, because at the end of the day, you want them to leave here and be like, okay, I'm doing a good job, and you're not lying to them, but you're helping them see though, like most of us can see glass half full, like, hey, I got a chance to work out today, things went pretty well, I felt pretty decent. That's all you're really asking for, right? And that goes back to the shit and ice cream mixture that I spoke about earlier, right? Like, think about how to put criticisms, and this is all good, there's nothing bad in this combination here, just ice cream and a cookie, but sandwich your compliments and sandwich your cues. I'm always like, for instance, like I had this kid, Liam, like, I'd be like, hey, Liam, you're looking great today, things are awesome. One thing I need you to fix right now, I just need you to get your hips up a little bit, okay? So I'm just gonna coach it like this, we're gonna do it like that. Awesome, that looks freaking awesome, man. Because sometimes some people take criticism and cueing differently. But you just, like, I try to pour on the sugar all the time because they like that, and they tend to take those critiques a little bit easier. At the end of the day, when it comes to coaching and cueing and how you communicate with people on the floor, the one thing I always said when we went through the whys, like, did you positively impact someone's life today? Was I able to leave on my drive home
when I'm tired and think like, did this kid get better off today? It might not have been his bench, it might not have been his sprint. Maybe it was because I made sure that he put his sheet away, or I made sure that I sat and talked to him about his school, or I sat and talked to him about whatever his goals are for college and things like that. Make sure you can do. I always tell my coach, make sure you can check that box every day, because sometimes you're like, I sucked. Like my group was a mess. I was tired. I should have fixed this thing. But if you can leave the coaching experience at the end of every day and say, okay, I checked this box because I did something small for this kid or for this adult. I helped them work through their food plan. I talked about, how they can deal with these stresses so they can sleep better at night, even though you might have screwed up something else. Like that means you do a good job coaching. And the better you get, the easier it is to check that box, because you can see the spots where you can intervene and you have less of these times that you make mistakes. So we covered a lot, right, in that lecture, but I think really it still comes back to the stuff where I said find your why, because if you find your why, all that other stuff will kind of fall in line typically, I think. So you guys have my contact information, but I will send this stuff to you. I have a PDF, so I'll drop it over to you in a Dropbox. We'll do a little back and forth. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.